Welcome to Living Traditions Homestead. My name is Sarah, and today we are in the kitchen and we are going to be talking about apples. Now, I thought for sure this spring, based on the amount of apple blossoms we had in our orchard, that for sure we would have our very first harvest of apples. But we had two really hard frosts and it took all of the blossoms off of all the trees in the orchard. So no fruit from the orchard this year, and I was really disappointed. I was really hoping for apples this year. But recently I was at one of our local stores and I found that they were selling bushels of apples. They're apple seconds, so they're not the most perfect apples that you would find in the grocery store, but they were selling them for $20 a bushel. So I picked up 2 bushels of apples and I've been storing them in the refrigerator. We've been having a great time eating from them and making some desserts. But now it's time to start cleaning out the refrigerator because it is hog butchering season and I need that refrigerator to chill some meat. So today I'm going to start processing some of these apples. We're going to put them in jars. We're going to make applesauce today. Put them in some jars, can them up so that we can have them all year long. Now, applesauce is very easy to make, you guys. Very easy to can, and it is wonderful for several reasons. Homemade applesauce, it just tastes better. You also know exactly the ingredients that you're putting in your food. Our youngest daughter, Samantha, absolutely loves applesauce just to eat it, but you could also use applesauce as an oil substitute in a lot of your baking. You can make applesauce with sugar, without sugar. You can add spices like cinnamon and nutmeg, those kinds of things, or you can just completely leave them out. You can also make applesauce for your baby food or your grandbabies. I think making baby food sounds fantastic if you have babies around or in the family. Applesauce is also a fantastic thing to make when your apples just aren't super fresh and crisp anymore. If they've been in the refrigerator and they've kind of gone soft and they're a little bit too old to be slicing up and making into pies and things, because soft apples just kind of disintegrate in a pie. They don't make a wonderful crisp apple in there. You can definitely make applesauce. So this is a perfect solution for that bag of apples that you forgot was in the refrigerator. They've been there a little bit too long. You can still do something with them. Now, the apples that I have today, the varieties, they are John Mac and Empire. They're both very good kind of all-purpose apples. One of them is a little bit more sweet and the other is a little bit more tart. So the combination of the two of them I think is going to be perfect for applesauce. This here is about 12 pounds of apples. That's what we're going to be working with today, and I did weigh these out to make sure, because that's what our recipe calls for. You might be looking at this volume of apples and say, are you kidding me? I need to peel all of these apples. Well, I have a trick for you. I'm going to show you a wonderful little gadget that helps me out. But first we need to wash all of these apples, make sure they're good and clean, and then we will start peeling them and getting the show on the road. Enough talking, Sarah. Let's get going. Okay, our fruit is washed. I have some of the other things that I'm going to be using set up here so we can get started. But first I want to let you know that I am following the recipe and the instructions from my favorite canning book called The Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving. I use so many of these recipes. I absolutely love this book. And if you are interested in learning more about this book, it is in our Amazon shop. So before we start getting peeling, one thing we need to do is to get a water bath ready that we can put the sliced apples into that will prevent them from browning. Now there are several ways that you can prevent the apples from browning before you start using them. My favorite way is to use citric acid, but you can also use lemon juice and you can use ascorbic acid. I love using the citric acid because it only uses 1 teaspoon of citric acid per gallon of water. You can just get that in the canning section at Walmart or whatever store you get your canning supplies from. It is very inexpensive, it never goes bad, and it's actually cheaper in the long run to use citric acid than lemon juice. Sometimes I just don't have a lot of lemon juice on hand and this works really well for me. Ascorbic acid is very similar. You also use 1 teaspoon of ascorbic acid per gallon of water, but lemon juice you use 3/4 of a cup per gallon. So I have started with 1 gallon of water. I'm gonna be slicing the apples and putting them right in this water bath until I'm done and ready to get started cooking them. But I do wanna give you a tip that I can never remember how much of the citric acid or the lemon juice or ascorbic acid I'm supposed to be using in this water bath. So there, I just write it right in my book. I have it just like a cheat sheet. I just wrote that. The second tip is about peeling and slicing all of these apples. That can be very time consuming. So I use an apple peeler, slicer, corer contraption. It's fantastic and I love it. So I want to show you guys a little bit better how it works and why I love it so much. So this contraption here is an apple peeler, corer, and slicer. It does it all at one time. It is such a time saver. I love it so much. Now there are lots of different manufacturers that make this type of an apple peeler, corer, slicer, and I haven't really found any of them to be better than others. A couple things that I do recommend if you're interested in buying one of these. Now we'll put an example of one of these in our Amazon shop, but I would make sure that you buy one that is pretty much all metal, not plastic, and I really prefer those that hook onto the bottom of the counter like this rather than the suction cup ones. They don't tend to last as long in my experience and in my opinion. So those are the two things that I would recommend. Let's take a little bit closer look at this and I'll show you how it works. I'm gonna unlatch this so it slides way out. There's just a lever that allows you to pull that all the way back. I'm gonna take my first apple and I'm going to put the stem side in these 3 prongs and press it in there. So that holds the apple. This here is going to peel the apple. This here is going to core it and it slices it all at one time. You turn the handle. You can see me turning it. The peeler starts to peel the apple as you go, which is kind of fantastic. And then it gets to this corer. It will start pushing it through here. The core will come out. The slices will be slicing at the same time. All done. Now you can see the apple comes off of the core just like that. It's all in slices. And from here, we can just put that in our water so it doesn't brown. Take the core off just like that. All of your extra falls down here. Push the lever, bring it back, and you can start all over again. Well, I hope you found that demonstration to be helpful. And I hope that if you do a lot of apple processing that you give that little gadget a try. Now, I'm gonna do the rest of these just real quick, but I also want to let you know that these peelings and the cores and stuff you can actually keep and make apple cider vinegar out of. I'm going to be doing that for the very first time with some of these apple peelings, but I'm not going to be doing a video on it because I don't really feel like I know what I'm doing yet, and I don't want to teach you something that doesn't go well. But I do want to point you in the direction of two people that are pretty confident about making homemade vinegars. One is my friend Jessica from Three Rivers Homestead. She has a great tutorial on her stories on Instagram. I'm not quite sure if she has a video out on it yet. She is on YouTube. But also Heidi from Rain Country makes a ton of her own vinegars out of lots of fruits. She has a playlist on YouTube. So if this is something that you're really interested in, making your own vinegars at home, make sure that you check out those two channels, those two people, for more information. All the apples are peeled and sliced and cored. I'm just gonna dump out the citric acid water and put all the apples back in here so we can get it onto the stove. Now that they're all drained, we're gonna put these on the stove top, and we're just gonna add enough water so that when we are cooking these, it will prevent the apples from sticking on the bottom. So I'm gonna add just about 1 cup of water. We're gonna start heating this up on medium-high. We're gonna bring it to a boil. We're gonna be, stirring it to make sure it doesn't stick. Once this comes to a boil, we will reduce the heat and let this cook for anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes, probably on the 20-minute side, because I just wanna make sure that everything is cooked down really well before we start blending this all up and turning it into applesauce. Well, these have cooked long enough. I don't even really know how long they've been cooking. They're just mushy and soft. And I'm gonna take them off the heat here. I'm gonna grab my immersion blender here, grab the right attachment, and then I'm just gonna blend all of this up until it's nice and smooth. The applesauce is all blended up, nice and smooth. Now you can make it as smooth or as chunky as you like, but I just like it a nice smooth consistency. While the apples were cooking, I brought out my canning pot, my water bath canning pot, filled it up with water and started to get it hot. I also washed all the jars that I'm going to be using today, make sure that they're good and clean. There are just a couple more things that I want to add to this applesauce before we start canning it. Now it is up to you, like I said before, whether or not you want to add sugar. And you can add no sugar, and in this recipe it says that you can add up to 3 cups of sugar. So I'm going to add 2 cups of sugar just to sweeten it up here. I'm also going to add some cinnamon because Samantha likes applesauce with cinnamon. I'm adding 4 teaspoons of cinnamon. You could also add nutmeg or allspice, but a total of 4 teaspoons of spices. Now I do want to take a second to talk about a company that I absolutely love. I talk with you guys about it quite often, and that is where we get a lot of our bulk spices and seasonings and a lot of other things that we can't grow here on the homestead, including the organic sugar. This is organic cane sugar. That company is called Azures Standard, and there's information about that in the description section of this video. It is, it's an online, basically, buying club. It's a company that you can buy your organic or non-organic ingredients and food, and then it is all delivered at a meeting place once a month in your community. We absolutely love it. It has great products and affordable prices, and that is basically where we buy most of what we cannot grow for ourselves on the homestead. Because I don't shop very often, I try not to shop more than once a month. I like to stock up, and Azures Standard sells a lot of things in bulk. Like the sugar that I buy 25 pounds at a time. Sometimes I'll buy 2 bags or 50 pounds at a time. Cinnamon, you can buy up to a pound at a time, and then I don't have to worry about it the rest of the year. Because we cook from scratch, probably 90% of the time, I really rely on ingredients and in bulk. So that's why I really like that company. So you can check that out if you would like to. The information is in the description section of this video. Okay, that is all mixed in. There's one more thing that we need to add, and that is lemon juice. And I know I've talked with you about citric acid versus lemon juice, but in this situation, I really like the flavor of lemon juice in the applesauce versus citric acid. Now we're adding this to increase the acidity of the applesauce so that it is safer to can through the canning process. So I'm adding 1/4 cup of bottled lemon juice. That is important to use bottled lemon juice because the acidity is always the same. They test the acidity of the lemon juice that is bottled to make sure it's always a certain percentage. If you use fresh lemons, the acidity level can vary considerably between one lemon and another, and it may not be high enough to make your canning safe. So make sure you use bottled lemon juice. Okay, we have this all stirred up. Let's put this on the stove. We need to bring this back up to a low boil or to a soft boil before we can start canning. While that has been heating up, I've been getting all the canning stuff ready. So now we can take this off the heat and we can start canning. When you're canning applesauce at home, it's actually best for you to leave this on the stove and let it boil really slowly while you're doing the canning process, but I can't show you how to can over there. It's just too tight of a space, so I'm moving over here. In normal circumstances, I would can over there because that's what the instructions say to do. So, okay, we're gonna get canning. Very simple water bath canning. We're going to fill these jars up until there is only 1/2 inch of a space between the top of the jar and the applesauce. That's called head space, 1/2 inch head space. We're gonna get the bubbles out. I'm actually gonna get a chopstick. I prefer to use a chopstick for this. Get the bubbles out. Measure with a specific measuring tool if I have the correct amount of headspace, and I do. Then I'm going to wipe off the rim of the jar to make sure there's no food, applesauce stuck on there, because that will prevent a good seal. I'm going to put on a lid. This is a clean lid. There have been some changes in the canning processes within the last year or so. The canning lids need to be clean, but they don't need to be sterilized and they don't need to be warm anymore. So I have a clean lid I put on a ring, and I'm going to put this right in the canning water. I'm going to continue doing this until all of the applesauce has been put into the jars and they've all been put into the canner. And while I'm finishing these last jars, there's just one more thing that I want to talk to you guys about. Recently I've been seeing advertisements for a company that makes some pretty awesome t-shirts. They're faith-based t-shirts, Christian t-shirts, and I'm actually wearing one of them today. And I actually contacted them, let them know that I've looked into their company and I think they're really pretty great. The company is called Ellie and Grace. It's a Christian company owned by women. They design all of these faith-based t-shirts just like this. And I asked if I could help promote them because I looked into their company. I think they're really great. Women-owned, all USA based. The t-shirts come from the United States. The printing is done by the company Ellie and Grace in Missouri. And I just thought it was great. So in some upcoming videos, I'm going to be wearing more of their t-shirts because I think they're fantastic. Check them out, ellieandgrace.com. I did ask them if they could provide us with a 10% off coupon code, and they have said yes. That coupon code is LTH10, like Living Traditions Homestead, 10% off. LTH10, you'll get 10% off your order if you order from them. Now, I'm not getting any commission from that company to help promote them. I just think they're a great company. I do get a couple free t-shirts from them, but I just think that they're a great company and I want to help them out. So if you like faith-based t-shirts like this, go check them out, put an order in. I would love to bless their company with some orders from you guys. Okay, the last jar is going in. So I'm gonna put the lid back on and turn the heat on high. Once this comes up to a full rolling boil, then I will set my timer. These pints, and actually the quarts, need to process for 20 minutes. But because of our elevation, we are above 1,000 feet above sea level, I need to add 5 minutes to the processing time. So I'll actually be processing these for 25 minutes. After the time is up, I will turn off the heat and take off the lid and let it sit there for 5 minutes just to let everything calm down. These are going to be really hot and the liquid inside is going to be really hot too. So if I just take the jars out when they're so hot, there's a high likelihood that the contents can rush out of the top or siphon out of the top, and that could compromise the seal. So we're going to make sure to do that. So wait for this to come up to a boil and then we'll set our timer. Now is the best part of all. They're all finished processing and we can take them out and put them on the counter. Well guys, we did it. We canned applesauce. I'm so happy that you decided to join me today in the kitchen. I really had a good time hanging out with you guys. Hey, if you're enjoying our videos, make sure you hit the subscribe button below so that you are notified of all of our new videos. And remember that the best way that you can help us here on the homestead is to share our videos on all of your social media. Until next time, thank you so much for stopping by our homestead. Take care and God bless.